So one thing that we found is super important is something called deburring. Anytime you cut an edge, you cut a hole, you drill a hole, you need to deburr it. And basically that's just knocking that sharp edge off. You don't want it to be a stress riser, you don't want it rubbing, you don't want to cut a cable, got to deburr it. There's a lot of different surfaces that you have to deburr. You may have a flat edge, you may have a big hole, maybe a little drill hole. And for each surface, there seems to be a different tool that works best for that. People have their own preferences for what they like better. We didn't know any better, so we tried them all.
This flat file was actually really useful for knocking off the corners right there, just to you know, get it nice around there, as well as when we did our jig pin holes right here, we'd have a little lip, so we would use this to just very carefully grind off that lip. This really isn't a deburring tool. Well, it sort of is, but it's a chainsaw file that actually somebody online told us to try out. And we use these little files to create these little relief holes so that when we flange this over, it's relieved there. So there's not a sharp edge. So this is another file that we used to deburr and cut away the metal that was really cheap and really effective. A chainsaw sharpening file. Since all you're really trying to do is knock that edge off, you can't even just use a simple piece of sandpaper to knock that edge. But do use a fresh piece of sandpaper, not one that you've used to sand down some other things, especially something like steel.
Another cheap option is Scotch-Brite pads. These are what your wife or husband uses to do the dishes with. They make some specifically for aluminum, but we just got these at the hardware store. They're just a plain Jane. And these are really handy for these circles where you can get in there, you can bend them around, twist them. And if you're worried about scratching the aluminum, they also do a real good job of buffing out any scratches you may have put on there. If you're looking for a Scotch-Brite pad on steroids, there's a 3M wheel made by the same company. You can mount it to a bench grinder. And this is specifically for aluminum. It's aluminum oxide, but it's real good for the outside edges where you got a long straight shot. Gets it done real quick. You can also get smaller ones. You can put on something like a bench press. And this is a 3-inch, and that's good for those inside holes as well. Make sure when you're using these Scotch-Brite wheels that you make sure you got a glove on. And you don't want to just jam the piece into it. You want to start at kind of a shallow angle and work it up. You don't want to dig a corner in. The other thing is, you see a little groove in here. If you keep putting them in the same spot, you'll dig a groove. Some people think that's a good thing. Some people try to use the whole face. We don't know, but we try both. Ease it in. Beautiful. So we've shown you some of the different areas you have to deburr. You can get into some tight spots. You just need to be creative, adapt these tools. We've shown you some of them. People also make their own, whatever works. You just want to make sure that you're knocking the edge off. You don't want to do it too much. When we first started, Brady went a little too far, turned one of our lightning holes into a razor blade, and then to test it, decided to spin it around his finger. Probably not the smartest idea.
But it, you know, the flesh wound finally healed, and now I can pick Caleb's nose.
And we also found out that blood is corrosive for aluminum, so make sure you wash it off if you do bleed all over your ribs.
Yes, but I bleed for this project, Caleb.
I don't have to.